I got a couple of mates who are currently going through a divorce. And let me tell you that prevention is better than cure. What tends to happen is we start referring to our missus as the ball and chain, or the trouble and strife, the wife. That she's a wagon, someone who moans at us a lot and nags at us a lot. We have to realize we can't control her. All we can control is how we react to what she does or doesn't do. And that determines the quality of our life. But if you're someone who's of the high performer at work, you're reliable, you're problem solver, you're driven, you're someone that listens really intently, someone that asks questions to show they're listening, we call that active listening, there's a good chance your missus wouldn't use those same words to describe you at home. And that's not a character flaw, that's a biology problem. And this is maybe the first time this conversation has been had. Because nobody talks about the correlation between physical health and marriage. And how physically, when your missus fell in love with you, you were a different person. I don't just mean how you look. I mean how you feel about yourself, how you see the world, your vitality. And that's all biology. And we can get that back. So I've put together a scorecard, which takes 2 minutes to do, and it will tell you a snapshot where you stand across mind, body, relationship, family, and business. And then you'll know what to focus on. The link is in the description or the show notes. Takes 2 minutes. Right, let's do this. So you are running the wrong software, but it's an easy fix. So here's what we're covering today and why you should stick around for it. I'm going to show you the science behind why high-performing men, specifically, tend to struggle most in their closest relationships. Not because they don't care, because of what their lifestyle is doing to their biology. Why the thing you think is keeping your family together, your work ethic, your drive, your ability to hold it all together, may be the exact thing that's eroding your marriage. These are not therapy talking points. This is physiology, anthropology, evolutionary biology, and a bit of philosophy. All of it is pointing to the same conclusion. By the end of this video, hide it for a sec, I will give you a 3-part implementation framework that you can start on tonight. Not next month, not after the next big lifestyle overhaul, tonight. So men who make these changes consistently report that within 2 to 4 weeks, their partners notice a difference before they do, and before it's too late. It's not a character flaw. Now, I specifically work with men who like I was 5-10 years ago. Right? So I'm 44 now. My age range of lads I work with is around this age. Right? We're middle-aged, unfortunately. The average age of of death in Ireland is 82, and it's similar in the UK. America is slightly less. But we're halfway there. We're on the back 9. And I got 3 kids. They're all under 5. So I know from first-hand experience what running your own business, especially working from home, does to your life and to your marriage, and what it can do, the strains it puts on it. It's very hard to create that divide. But there's a physical pillar that almost never is just about the physical. It's how you train, how you sleep, how you eat, how you recover, has a direct downstream effect on every other area of your life, including and especially your marriage. So if you're not taking the scorecard, do that. See where you're leaking your energy. Cortisol. Now, it's amazing how just general population probably know what this is already. It's a stress hormone, but it's massively misunderstood. It's always painted as the negative. But I'm going to show you the 2 sides of it and why and when we need it. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and in the right doses at the right times, it's useful. High performing men are often running on cortisol, and it's part of what makes them effective. The problem is what happens when cortisol never switches off. Because cortisol, if you didn't know, wakes you up in the morning when it peaks. And when you drink coffee, you increase the cortisol. So it's makes us want to take action, right, and be reactive, which is good in the workplace. So when you're chronically stressed, your cortisol baseline rises and stays elevated. So first, it suppresses testosterone. So they have an inverse relationship. As cortisol goes up, testosterone goes down. And cortisol and testosterone cannot work together. They can't rise at the same time. It keeps your nervous system in a sympathetic dominance. So that's fight or flight. Your brain is scanning for threats and it's prioritizing survival over connection. It blunts your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain just behind your forehead. And this is responsible for empathy, emotional regulation, and perspective taking, and patience. All the things your wife is asking for when she says you're not present. So when you come home from work, you've got high cortisol. That's the mode that you're in. And that's been high for 10 to 12 hours. And your nervous system is still in that threat detection. So your prefrontal cortex is running at reduced capacity. Your testosterone is suppressed and your wife wants to talk about how she's feeling. So you can't do it. Not because you don't love her, but because your brain is literally not in the state required for that kind of conversation. It's running the wrong software. So she experiences coldness, dismissal, sometimes emotional unavailability, and you experience feeling like you're being unfairly criticized after a hard day of work. Both of you are right, and both of you are missing the actual cause. The actual cause is unmanaged physiological stress with no recovery protocol. There's no transition switch, and this is particularly more challenging when you work from home, which we'll get into. So for the vast majority of human history, men have operated in two distinct environments. We call this the first and second space. Outside of the home, they competed, they hunted, they fought, they negotiated, they established status within a hierarchy. But inside the home, they cooperated. They were attentive fathers, reliable partners, and members of a community. The brain developed circuitry for both those modes. But the switch requires a transition, a decompression, a physiological shift from one state to the other. Modern high-performing men have lost that transition. They used to walk home from a field, have a ritual of arrival, a physical and physiological buffer between the world of competition and the world of connection. Now the transition is a 30-second commute. Like me, I work in my garden room and my house is 10 steps away. So 10-second commute. Or it could be a 15-minute drive. Or if it's a long drive, you might be on calls on that drive on the way home, or listen to a podcast, or listen to news and trying to multitask. So you're still in work mode. There's no switch. So the dominance mode comes home with you. Your wife tells you about a problem that she's having with her friend, and you immediately give her a solution. She does not want the solution. She wants you to listen. And you feel like you did the right thing. She feels like you missed her entirely. And this is not a communication failure. This is a mode failure. You walked into a cooperative environment, still running competitive hardware. So sacrificing your health starves your family of your presence. right? It's a false economy. Sociological research consistently shows that men who exercise regularly report higher relationship satisfaction. And here is the part most people miss. So do their partners. A study published in the Journal of Health Psychology found that men who maintained consistent physical activity reported better mood regulation, higher patience thresholds, and greater relationship quality than sedentary men at equivalent income and stress levels. Most high-performing dads who have let their fitness slide will tell you it's because they are prioritizing their family. But the data shows that this is not the case. It doesn't support that trade-off. The man who skips training to spend more time at home is often less present when he gets there. He's more irritable, more reactive, more easily overwhelmed by the noise and chaos of family life. You cannot give what you do not have. The fitness hours are not time taken from your family. They are the investment that makes you worth being around. Neglecting your physical health in the name of family is not noble. It is a slow withdrawal from the account your family actually needs you to keep full. The energy account. Lifestyle-induced testosterone actively destroys your emotional engagement. So when your testosterone goes down, it's a very misunderstood hormone. You think of it as like big muscles and popping veins, but it actually is more about your mood. So testosterone helps you to connect. And we call this, if you can't do this, the flatness factor. So testosterone is one of the most misunderstood hormones. But you think about it of being like aggressive and having ego. And this is a partial or misleading picture. Testosterone also regulates willingness to take social and emotional risks, including the risk of being vulnerable with the people you love. Low testosterone in men correlates strongly with irritability, emotional withdrawal, reduced libido, low motivation, and a flattened effect. Not rage, flatness. The lights are on, but nobody's interested in being home. Average testosterone levels in men have been declining for decades, which you probably know that. But it's not due to genetics, it's due to lifestyle. And here's the 4 biggest drivers. Poor sleep. Testosterone is produced during sleep that's really deep. Men averaging less than 6 hours per night show testosterone levels comparable to men 10 years older. The second one is chronic stress being elevated with cortisol. These two hormones, as you know, have an inverse relationship. The third one is sedentary lifestyle. Resistance training is one of the most reliable, natural stimulants of testosterone production. When you stop lifting, your levels drop. And finally, poor diet. Testosterone is synthesized from cholesterol. So this fat-phobic diet starves your production of testosterone. In other words, we're told for years, low fat is good for you. And this is a lie. Remember, it depends on what type of fat. But cholesterol is a precursor to testosterone. So you put in those 4 factors, you put them all together, and you're describing the average successful dad in his early 40s. His wife notices before he does. She interprets the withdrawal as emotional unavailability, loss of attraction, or a sign that something is wrong in the relationship. Often nothing is wrong in the relationship except his biology. Same man, just needs better hardware. Now, just over halfway through, I'm going to have a little sip of my water. Well, I don't know what this is, funky tea. I'm going to delve into a bit of philosophy. Suppression is not discipline. Unprocessed stress creates a pressurized, intensely unavailable version of you. Many high-performing men identify with stoicism, which is emotional control and just getting on with it, not complaining. And there's value in that tradition. You know, Marcus Aurelius or Seneca. And these are serious thinkers, and that's how we see them, as thinkers. But there's a version of Stoicism that has been distorted in modern male culture into something else entirely. Suppression dressed up as discipline. True Stoic equanimity is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to experience emotion without being controlled by it. Marcus Aurelius trained his body, and that was part of his philosophical practice. The Stoics understood that physical discipline was inseparable from mental and moral clarity. You cannot achieve genuine equanimity from a depleted, chronically stressed, hormonally dysregulated body. What you achieve instead is suppression. Research shows that chronic emotional suppression elevates inflammatory markers, disrupts your sleep, and accelerates hormone decline. A man in suppression mode is not calm. He's pressurized. And the people close to him are going to feel that pressure even when he doesn't express it directly. His wife does not experience him as a strong and steady person. She experiences him as unavailable and closed off. You cannot think your way to a regulated nervous system. You have to earn it physically. So let's put this infrastructure together. You've got the cortisol-filled husband. Chronic stress keeps his nervous system in threat mode. It reduces the biological capacity for emotional connection. And this is not weakness, this is physiology. You have the dominance hierarchy problem. So high-performing men are trained to compete. Marriage requires connection, cooperation. Without a deliberate transition between those two modes, the competitive brain comes home and creates distance. Then we have the empty tank paradox. Sacrificing your physical health in the name of family time is a false economy. A depleted man has less to give, not more. Your fitness is not selfish, it is the source, as in SOURCE. And the testosterone empathy link. Low testosterone driven by lifestyle, not age, produces the exact symptoms your wife experiences as emotional unavailability. Sleep, training, and nutrition are hormonal interventions. And finally, the Stoic trap. Suppression is not discipline. Genuine equanimity requires a regulated nervous system. That regulation is built physically, not intellectually. You cannot be the husband and father you want on a degraded biological foundation. The body is not separate from the man. It is the infrastructure everything else runs on. So you must protect your sleep like it's a board meeting. I mean, you wouldn't cancel a board meeting to scroll on your phone. But you're cancelling your testosterone production, your cortisol reset, and your emotional bandwidth every time you do. Lying in bed, scrolling until the late hours. To target, if you can, 7 to 8 hours sleep. I know this is not reliable and it will be broken, especially with kids. But it's a non-negotiable that you're getting 6 hours. Pick a time you will be in bed by. So we all set an alarm to wake up, but do we set an alarm to go to bed? Not at a time you're going to be asleep by, because you don't want to put that stress on yourself, but a time that you're going to be in the bed. Because your brain needs a transition. It needs to move out of the stimulation mode before it can switch into recovery mode. Same principle as the dominance hierarchy problem. So this week, set a time to go to bed. Put it in your calendar, whichever calendar software you use, and put it as a recurring block. Okay, I get a notification on my phone. It's time to go to bed. I mean, that alone is going to add 30, 45 minutes to your sleep. Right, you weren't getting before. Okay, the biological switch, 3 sessions a week, 30 minutes. 3 sessions of what, I hear you cry? A session? On the old blues? No. Lifting weights, not cardio. And not 2 hours, 30 minutes. And not a perfect program. A balanced one. So a push, pull, a squat, a lunge, and a rotation. You do that consistently, you'll produce measurable hormonal and neurological benefits within 2 to 4 weeks. Resistance training, 2 to 3 times per week, plus aerobic sessions, if you enjoy that, is a sweet spot for testosterone optimization, cortisol management, and mood regulation in men over 40. Now, I run because I love the feeling afterwards. And I also believe that it's important to strengthen your heart, which cardiovascular exercise does. But if you're really stuck for time, prioritize strength. Lift weights. If you can add cardio onto that, do it, but don't do it for the fat loss. Do it for the heart health and the mood regulation. If you've got a home gym, you've got no excuse. If you don't, body weight and a set of dumbbells will do the job. Pull-up bar is a great investment if you're able to do a pull-up. And if not, that's something to work towards as a goal. Use your training as a biological switch between work mode and home mode. If you can, train before you walk back into your family home, which is even better. And if you can't, get a good walk in. A 20-minute walk, which is what I mean by a good walk, after finishing work, and engaging with your family changes your neurological state as soon as you arrive in the door. So this week, schedule your sessions, put them in the calendar, and treat them like client appointments. Okay, last slide. The arrival ritual. Create a daily decompression routine. 15 minutes to purge the work state before entering home. So this sounds a bit woo-woo, a bit softer than it is, but this is a physiological protocol. 10 to 15 minutes between work and family, every day, non-negotiable. It does not need to be a meditation. But I used to teach yoga. I used to teach retreats, lead workshops, and I taught meditation, but I can't sit down cross-legged. So your meditation doesn't have to be looking at a blank wall. There's many ways to meditate. I mean, walking is a meditation when you're really concentrating on every step. Could be a cold shower because all you're thinking about is how cold that shower is. You're not thinking about your bills. Or it could be 5 minutes breathing. Or maybe you're sitting in your car in silence before you go inside. The purpose is to allow the nervous system to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Basically fight or flight to rest and digest. Or from threat scanning to connection ready. And this is the modern equivalent of walking home from the field. Research from HeartMath Institute shows that even 5 minutes of controlled breathing drops cortisol measurably and shifts heart rate variability toward the parasympathetic range. This is a physiological state change, not a mindset trick. So again, you can't think your way into this. You have to actually take physical action. It doesn't have to be crazy. And your wife and kids do not need you to arrive home happy. They need you to arrive home present. So this week, identify what your daily ritual for transition is going to be and build it into the end of every workday. Is that a bird? I thought it was one of the kids crying, then I realised they're not here, they're in the soft play place. Right, so just to recap on those 3 things to do. Number 1, set a bedtime and put it in your calendar as a recurring block. Number 2, schedule your sessions, put them in the calendar, treat them like client appointments. And number 3, identify your daily transition ritual and build it into your end of your workday. And if you haven't done so already, understand you cannot go on a journey unless you've got a map and you know where you're starting from. So take the scorecard if you haven't done so already. Link is in the description. Takes 2 minutes. Instant results. Thank you.